Lucinda had cleaned houses for 20 years. She told me later she had never heard anything like it. A child, sobbing above the kitchen ceiling. So faint you would miss it if the television was on. "Mr. Delgado," she whispered into the phone. "That room upstairs. Someone is in there. Someone small." My daughter-in-law Stephanie had sworn that room was sealed off. Broken pipes, black mold. Too dangerous to enter. But pipes do not cry. Mold does not beg for its mother. And 3-year-old secrets do not stay buried forever. I am deeply grateful you are here with me right now. Before we continue, I need to ask you something. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you ignored what was right in front of you? Drop a comment below and tell me where you are watching from. It helps me know I am not telling this story into the dark. One important note. Parts of this narrative have been adjusted for clarity and emotional impact. Any similarities to actual individuals or locations are coincidental, but the lessons here are worth every second of your time. That Wednesday morning had started the way every Wednesday started since I retired. Quiet. The kind of silence that settles over a house when only one person breathes inside it. I stood in the kitchen of our home on Magnolia Drive in Austin, Texas. The same kitchen where Maria used to hum rancheras while rolling tamales on Christmas Eve. The same kitchen where my granddaughter Emma once sat on the counter swinging her little legs, watching me sand a cutting board and asking why wood had stripes. That was 3 years ago. Emma was 7 then. Full of questions, full of laughter that bounced off these walls like sunlight. Now she was supposedly in Dallas at Westlake Academy, a gifted boarding school that Stephanie had researched and chosen and enrolled her in without much input from anyone else. Video calls every Sunday. Report cards every semester. Photos of school plays and science fairs. Everything perfectly normal. Everything perfectly managed. I poured my coffee. Dark roast from that little shop on South Congress that Maria and I used to walk to on Saturday mornings before her legs got too weak. The clock above the stove read 8:52. Stephanie had left at 8:15 for her spa appointment. The same appointment she kept every Wednesday and Friday without fail. Lucinda had arrived at 8:30 to clean, the way she did every other week. Routine. Predictable. Safe. My phone shattered that safety at 9:15. Lucinda's name appeared on the screen. She never called during a job. Never. In 4 months of cleaning our home, she had communicated only through texts. Quick. Professional messages. Finished early today, or need more paper towels next time. A phone call meant something was wrong. Mr. Delgado. Her voice was barely a whisper. Something tight and frightened lived inside those 2 words. I need to tell you something, but I do not want to scare you. Tell me, Lucinda. I am upstairs. In the hallway by that room. The one your daughter-in-law told me never to go near. The one with the broken pipes. I set my coffee down. The mug landed harder than I intended against the granite counter. There is a sound, Mr. Delgado, coming from behind that door. It is a child crying, very quiet, like they are trying not to be heard. But I pressed my ear against the door, and I am sure it is a little voice. And it is saying something. It sounds like Mama. The kitchen tilted. Just slightly. The way a house shifts on its foundation after decades. Imperceptible to most people. But I am a carpenter. I spent 40 years reading the language of wood and nails and load-bearing walls. I know when something has moved that should not have moved. And right then, standing in that kitchen, everything shifted. That room has been sealed for 3 years, I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Stephanie said there was black mold. Dangerous to breathe. Mr. Delgado. Lucinda paused. Mold does not cry. Stay where you are, I told her. Do not touch the door. I am coming up, but I did not go upstairs. Not immediately. Instead, I did something I cannot fully explain. I walked to the center of the kitchen and placed both palms flat against the ceiling. The plaster was cool under my hands. Smooth. I closed my eyes and pressed harder the way I used to press my hands against freshly laid hardwood to check if the subfloor was level. And I felt it, a vibration. Faint, rhythmic, like a tiny heartbeat, pulsing through the joists and drywall above me. Something alive, something small, something directly above my kitchen where I made coffee every morning for 3 years. The front door opened. Heels clicked against the hallway tile. Stephanie's voice carried that particular brightness she always wore like perfume. "Dad?" I forgot my wallet. Did Lucinda already start upstairs? I pulled my hands from the ceiling, turned around, smiled the way I had smiled at her every day for 5 years. The way a father-in-law smiles at the woman his son chose. "She is up there now," I said. I think she mentioned hearing something, maybe an animal in the walls. Stephanie's smile stayed fixed, but something behind her eyes moved. A calculation. A rapid sorting of information. "Oh, that is probably the stray cat again," she said smoothly. "It gets onto the roof through the oak branch. I have been meaning to call pest control. I will handle it today." She grabbed her wallet from the hallway table and called up the stairs. "Lucinda, do not worry about the upstairs today, hon. Focus on the main floor. I will take care of that noise." Then she was gone again. Heels clicking, door closing, engine starting, gravel crunching. I stood alone in the kitchen, hands at my sides, heart hammering against my ribs the way a nail gun kicks when you pull the trigger. Stray cats climb onto roofs. That much was true. Stray cats make noise, also true. But stray cats do not whisper the word mama. And whatever was living above my kitchen was not an animal. It was a child. And the only child connected to this house, the only child connected to Stephanie, was my granddaughter Emma. The same Emma who was supposedly 6 hours away in Dallas. Learning, growing, thriving. But thriving children do not cry behind locked doors. And the vibration I felt through that ceiling was not plumbing. It was not mold. It was not a stray cat. It was a heartbeat. Small and fast and terrified. And it had been beating above my kitchen for 3 years while I drank my coffee and read my newspaper and told myself everything was fine. That night I did not sleep. I lay in the bedroom Maria and I had shared for 34 years, staring at the ceiling, the way a man stares at something he no longer trusts. The house creaked around me, settling, breathing, keeping its secrets the way it always had. Maria used to say this house had a soul. She said it the first time we walked through the front door in 1990. Me 29 with sawdust still in my hair. Her 27 with hope written across her face like sunlight on fresh pine. We built our life here board by board. I framed the bookshelves in the living room with red oak and dovetail joints. Maria filled them with novels and ceramic saints her mother brought from Guadalajara. I built the kitchen cabinets from sugar maple. She filled them with cumin, cinnamon, and dried chili peppers that made the whole house smell like home. And I built the room above the kitchen. 1995. Maria wanted a studio. Somewhere quiet to paint her watercolors. I framed it myself. Tongue and groove flooring. A skylight I cut into the roof one Saturday, while 3-year-old Javier played in the yard below. Maria painted up there for 20 years. Landscapes, flowers, portraits of our son, growing into a man. When Emma was born, Maria converted that studio into a nursery. A small white crib, a mobile of painted birds she made herself. Emma slept up there every weekend for 4 years. I could hear her babbling through the kitchen ceiling while I made breakfast. Little feet padding across boards I had laid with my own hands. "Take care of our family, Frank." Maria said those words near the end. Hospice bed in our living room. November. Her hand in mine felt like paper. All of them. Promise me. I promised. The way husbands promise dying wives. With everything I had. She passed on a Tuesday. Javier flew in from Houston. Stephanie handled the arrangements. Efficient. Compassionate in all the right ways, at all the right moments. 6 months later, Stephanie moved in. She said living alone was not good for me. She said Emma could benefit from time with her grandfather. For a while it was beautiful. Emma running through the kitchen the way Javier once had. Abuelo, why does wood have stripes? Abuelo, tell me the story about the bird again. The bird, Maria's story. A sparrow that fell from its nest and learned to fly by watching the wind. Emma asked for it every night. And every night I told it, sitting on the edge of her bed in the room above the kitchen. My granddaughter falling asleep holding a brown teddy bear Maria had given her on her 4th birthday. The last birthday Maria was alive for. Then one morning, 14 months after Maria passed, Stephanie sat me down at the kitchen table. Her face serious. Her hands folded the way people fold them when they have rehearsed what they are about to say. Dad, I found an incredible opportunity for Emma. Westlake Academy in Dallas. Top gifted program in the state. They only accept 20 students per year. Emma tested in the 99th percentile. I did not know Emma had been tested. Stephanie smiled. I wanted to surprise everyone. Javier is thrilled. Dallas is 6 hours away, I said. They have video calls every week. It will be like she never left. I wanted to argue. Emma was only 7. But Stephanie had brochures, testimonials, answers for every question before I asked it. And Javier agreed. My son who trusted his wife the way I once trusted his mother. Completely. Without question. So Emma left. Or that is what I believed. Stephanie drove her to Dallas on a Sunday in March. I stood on the porch, watching the car pull away. Emma's face pressed against the rear window, her hand waving, her mouth forming words I could not hear through the glass. I waved until the car turned the corner. 3 years ago. 1,095 days. 1,095 mornings making coffee alone in a kitchen that used to overflow with her laughter. I spoke to her every Sunday on video call, her face on a screen. Smiling, talking about school and friends whose names I could never quite remember, but I never touched her hand. Never smelled her shampoo. Never felt her arms around my neck. 3 years of loving my granddaughter through glass and pixels. 3 years of trusting that the image was real because Stephanie said it was. Because she was family. Because Maria's voice in my memory kept whispering family means trust. But lying in that bed, one hand still tingling from what I felt through the kitchen ceiling, I understood something terrible. Trust is not a feeling. Trust is a choice. And I had been choosing blindly for 3 years. Choosing comfort over curiosity. Choosing Stephanie's smooth answers over the questions living in my gut. Choosing to believe my granddaughter was thriving in Dallas because the alternative was too monstrous to hold. Maria would have seen it. She would have looked at Stephanie across that table and known the way she always knew. Instinctively. Immediately. The way I read grain patterns in wood. Maria read people. But Maria was gone. And I was just a carpenter. Good with my hands. Terrible with people. 65 years old. And only now understanding that the house I built with love could hold secrets I never put there. Tomorrow, I would stop trusting and start measuring. Because that is what carpenters do. We measure twice, we cut once, and we never build on a foundation we have not tested. I should have measured 3 years ago. God forgive me. I should have. But tomorrow would have to be enough. Thursday morning I stood beneath the kitchen ceiling with a cup of coffee. I was not drinking and eyes that were no longer looking at a ceiling. They were reading it. The way I had read wood for 40 years. Every joint. Every seam. Every imperfection that tells you where the stress lives. Stephanie left at 8 for a yoga class. I waited until her car disappeared around the corner of Magnolia Drive before I pulled a step stool from the garage and positioned it beneath the section of ceiling directly above the stove. I climbed up. My knees protested the way 65-year-old knees do. But my hands were steady. A carpenter's hands never forget. The ceiling was painted eggshell white. same as it had been for years. But up close, standing 18 inches from the surface instead of 6 feet below it, I saw what distance had hidden. A rectangular section roughly 4 feet by 3 feet had been repainted. The color matched almost perfectly. Almost. But the sheen was slightly different. Newer. The surrounding paint had yellowed with age, the way latex does over time. This patch had not yellowed. It was fresh. Maybe 6 months old. Maybe less. I ran my fingers along the edge of the patch. There. A seam. Barely visible. The kind of seam you only notice if you have spent decades running your hands across finished surfaces looking for flaws. Someone had cut into this ceiling and sealed it back up. I climbed down and retrieved a flashlight from the junk drawer. Back on the stool, I angled the beam across the surface at a low angle. Shadows appeared in the raking light. 4 screw heads. Phillips head. Bright silver. The screws holding the rest of the ceiling were flathead. Brass. Original to the house. I had installed them myself in 1995 when I built the room above. Someone had opened this ceiling and closed it again using different hardware. Someone who was not me. I put the stool away and went outside. The trash bins sat at the side of the house waiting for Friday pickup. I had never gone through our trash before. It felt like a violation, like opening someone else's mail. But Maria's voice echoed in my skull. Measure twice, Frank. So I measured. The first bin held kitchen waste. Coffee grounds. Vegetable scraps. Normal. The second bin held recyclables and a white plastic Target bag tied at the top. I untied it. Inside were 3 empty boxes. Horizon Organic Whole Milk. The kind with the cartoon cow on the front. The kind Maria used to buy for Emma because she said growing bones needed real milk. Next to the milk boxes sat a crushed Cheerios box. Not the regular kind. The kind with the little os designed for small fingers. And at the bottom, a bottle of Flintstones. Complete multivitamins. Children's vitamins. Chewable. For ages 4 through 12. I set each item on the driveway like evidence at a crime scene. My hands did not shake. Not yet. I was still measuring. I went back inside and checked the kitchen pantry. No children's milk. No Cheerios. No vitamins. These items had been purchased, used, and discarded, without ever touching our shared kitchen space. They existed in a parallel supply chain that ran through this house without my knowledge. I opened my phone and drove to the Target on North Lamar Boulevard. In the parking lot, I checked our shared family account. Stephanie had her own card linked to it. I scrolled through recent purchases. There. Wednesday of last week. Target. $147. I tapped the receipt. Horizon Organic Milk. 2 cartons. Cheerios. 2 boxes. Flintstones. Vitamins. 1 bottle. Crayola crayons. 64 pack. Coloring books. 3. Children's underwear. 6 pack. Size small. I stared at that last item until the screen blurred. Size small. For a child approximately 7 to 10 years old. Emma would be 10 now. If she was even in Dallas. I photographed the receipt. Then I scrolled back further. The pattern repeated. Every week. Every single week. For months. The same items rotating through. Milk. Cereal. Vitamins. Crayons. Coloring books. Underwear. Small clothes from the children's section. Sometimes a puzzle. Sometimes a stuffed animal. Small purchases that blended into the noise of household spending. Invisible unless you were looking. I had never looked. That night, I went to bed at 10. The house settled into darkness. Stephanie's door closed at 10:15. I lay still, breathing slowly, waiting. At 1:47 in the morning, I heard it. The soft click of Stephanie's bedroom door opening. Footsteps in the hallway. Not toward the bathroom, toward the back of the house. The rear door opened with its familiar creak. Then footsteps on the exterior staircase. The wooden steps I had built myself 29 years ago. I knew every sound they made. Left side creaks on step 3. Right side groans on step 7. Both sides pop on step 11. Step 3. Step 7. Step 11. Going up. A door opened above me. The faint sound of a deadbolt turning. Then, nothing for 22 minutes. I counted every second. Then the deadbolt again. The door. Step 11. Step 7. Step 3. Coming down. The rear door closing. Footsteps through the hallway. Her bedroom door clicking shut. I lay in the dark. Heart pounding. Counting what I knew. Fresh paint on the ceiling. New screws that were not mine. Children's groceries appearing and disappearing. Receipt after receipt for items a 10-year-old would need. And my daughter-in-law climbing those stairs at nearly 2 in the morning. Going up. Staying 22 minutes. Coming back down. I pulled my old carpenter's notebook from the nightstand drawer. The one Maria gave me on our 20th anniversary. Leather cover. Graph paper inside. I opened to a blank page and wrote the date. Below it I listed every detail. Every measurement. Every observation. The way I had documented every job for 40 years. I had built cabinets, porches, staircases, entire houses. I knew the sound of every board in every structure my hands had touched. And this house, my house, the house Maria and I raised our son in, was telling me something I could no longer ignore. That ceiling was not hiding pipes. Those stairs were not carrying a woman to check on mold. And the child-sized underwear in that Target receipt was not for a girl in Dallas. It was for a girl upstairs. A girl who had been there all along. Friday morning, I sat in my old Ford F-150, parked in the driveway with the engine off, and my hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me upright. The truck smelled like pine shavings and motor oil. Familiar. Grounding. I needed that grounding because what I was about to do would either confirm the worst suspicion of my life or prove me a paranoid old man who had lost his grip on reality. I pulled out my phone and searched Westlake Academy, Dallas, Texas. The website appeared immediately. Blue and gold colors. Photos of children in uniforms. A mission statement about nurturing gifted minds. It looked real. Professional. Exactly the kind of school a caring mother would choose for a brilliant daughter. I dialed the main office number. My thumb hovered over the call button for 6 full seconds before I pressed it. The phone rang twice. Westlake Academy. This is Janet speaking. How may I help you? My throat tightened. Yes. Good morning. My name is Frank Delgado. I am calling about my granddaughter, Emma Delgado. She has been enrolled there for approximately 3 years. I wanted to check on her attendance record for this semester. A pause. The sound of typing. Let me check our system, sir. Could you spell the last name? Delgado. First name Emma. She would be 10 years old. 4th grade. More typing. A longer pause. I could hear the woman breathing through her nose. Sir, I am not showing any student by that name in our current enrollment. Let me check our historical records. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. No, sir. I have searched our database back 5 years. We have never had a student named Emma Delgado enrolled at Westlake Academy. Are you certain you have the correct school? The truck cab shrank around me. I am certain, I said. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Someone watching this happen from a great distance. Could you check one more time? Perhaps under a different spelling? Sir, I have checked every variation. Delgado. 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 There is no match. I am very sorry. Would you like me to transfer you to admissions in case there was a registration error? No. Thank you, Janet. You have been very helpful. I ended the call and sat in silence. The neighborhood moved around me. A jogger passed with her dog. The Hendersons across the street loaded their minivan for a soccer game. Normal life. Ordinary Friday morning on Magnolia Drive, and I was sitting in my truck discovering that my granddaughter had never existed in the place I believed she had been living for 3 years. I searched 2 more schools, Green Hill School in Addison, the Hockaday School in Dallas. Names Stephanie had mentioned casually over the years. Oh, Emma's friend goes to Green Hill. Hockaday was our second choice. I called both. Neither had ever enrolled in Emma Delgado. Then I opened my photos. Every month, Stephanie sent pictures to our family group chat. Emma at a school play. Emma at a science fair. Emma with friends at what appeared to be a school cafeteria. I selected the most recent one. Emma standing in front of a brick building with a blue banner reading Academic Excellence Day. I opened Google on my phone and navigated to reverse image search. I uploaded the photo. The results appeared in 3 seconds. The brick building was not Westlake Academy. It was a stock photograph available on 4 different websites. Royalty-free. $5 to download. The banner had been digitally edited. The original image showed a different school name and a different state. I checked a second photo. Emma at a science fair. The background tables, the poster displays, the gymnasium lighting, all stock. All purchased from the same photography website. All edited to look like they belonged to Westlake Academy. My hands finally shook. Not from cold. Not from weakness. From the weight of understanding, settling onto my shoulders like wet concrete. I opened the last report card Stephanie had forwarded to Javier 3 months ago. Emma Delgado. 4th grade. Westlake Academy. All A marks. Teacher comments praising her creativity and leadership. I zoomed in on the header. The school logo was slightly pixelated. The font used for the grades was Times New Roman. I pulled up Westlake Academy's actual website and found their parent portal sample. Their official font was Garamond. Their logo resolution was crisp, vector-based. The report card in my phone was a fabrication. Created on a computer. Printed. Photographed. Sent to a father who never thought to verify it. I set the phone down on the dashboard and pressed both palms against my eyes until I saw sparks. 3 years. 3 years of photographs that were purchased online. 3 years of report cards, designed on a laptop. 3 years of a school that had never heard my granddaughter's name. Emma had never gone to Dallas. She had never sat in a classroom. Never made friends whose names I could not remember because they did not exist. Never performed in a school play. Never stood in front of a brick building for Academic Excellence Day. My granddaughter had never left this house. The realization did not arrive like a thunderclap. It arrived like water damage. Slow. Spreading. Soaking into everything it touched until the structure beneath was soft and ruined and ready to collapse. I drove back home at 9:45. Stephanie's car was in the driveway. I parked beside it. Wiped my face with my sleeve. Breathed in through my nose and out through my mouth, the way Maria taught me to do when anger threatened to override my thinking. I walked inside. Stephanie stood at the kitchen island, slicing fruit. Cantaloupe. Strawberries. Arranged beautifully on a white plate. "Hey, Dad." She smiled without looking up. "Want some fruit?" I picked up fresh strawberries from the farmer's market. I looked at her. At her hands, moving the knife with precision. At her face, composed and pleasant. At her eyes, focused on the task in front of her. Nothing in her expression suggested she was a woman hiding a child in a room above this very kitchen. "Looks great," I said. I sat down at the table, picked up a strawberry, ate it, tasted nothing. "Everything okay?" She glanced at me. "You look tired." "Slept poorly," I said. "Old man knees." She laughed, sympathetic. Warm. The way she always laughed. "Oh, Dad, you should try my yoga class. It works wonders." "Maybe I will," I said. We ate fruit together at the kitchen table. 2 people sharing strawberries on a Friday morning. One of them smiling because she believed her secrets were safe. The other smiling because he had just learned they were not. She had no idea that the Hulam daughter sitting across from her had just called 3 schools in Dallas and discovered that his granddaughter did not exist in any of them. She had no idea that the photographs she had been sending for 3 years were $5 stock images. She had no idea that the report cards she fabricated used the wrong font. She looked at me with those warm brown eyes and said, "More coffee, Dad?" "Please," I said. And I smiled. The way she smiled. Practiced. Perfect. Hiding everything beneath it. 2 could play this game. But only one of us knew the rules had changed. Saturday morning, my phone buzzed at 7:15. The name on the screen stopped me mid-sip. Patricia Nguyen. Maria's closest friend for 26 years. The woman who sat beside me at the funeral, who brought pozole every Sunday for 3 months afterward because she said grief should not be hungry, who managed finances the way I managed wood, with precision, with respect, with an understanding that numbers, like joints, must be exact, or the whole structure fails. Patricia never called early. She was a woman of routine. Coffee at 8, emails at 8:30, clients at 9. A 7:15 call meant something had broken through her schedule. Something urgent. Frank. Her voice was tight. Controlled. The way she sounded when she delivered difficult news to clients. "Can you meet me today?" "Not at your house. Somewhere private." "What is wrong, Patricia?" "Not over the phone." "Joe's Coffee on South Congress." "Can you be there by 9? I can be there by 8:30. The drive to South Congress took 14 minutes. I parked 2 blocks away and walked. The morning was cool for October in Austin. Low 60s. The kind of weather that reminds you summer does not last forever. That everything changes whether you are ready or not. Joe's was half full. Saturday brunch crowd. Young couples with strollers. Students with laptops. I claimed a table in the back corner beneath a mural of the Austin skyline painted in watercolors. Maria would have liked it. She would have studied the brushwork and said something about the way the artist captured the light on the river. Patricia arrived at 8:47. She carried a leather briefcase and wore the expression of a woman who had not slept well. She set the briefcase on the table between us and sat without ordering. "Frank," she said, "how much do you know about Emma's education fund?" I knew the basics. Maria had started it when Emma was born. Life insurance payout from her own policy. Savings she had accumulated over decades of frugal living. Every birthday check from relatives. Every Christmas bonus I earned. All of it funneled into a trust account for Emma's future. 1.8 million, I said. Maria told me before she passed. Said it would cover college, graduate school, a down payment on a house, whatever Emma needed. Patricia nodded. She opened the briefcase and pulled out a manila folder thick with documents. Maria asked me to oversee the fund as a secondary trustee. Make sure it was managed properly. Javier was primary trustee as Emma's father. Everything was fine for the first 2 years after Maria passed. She spread papers across the table. Bank statements, transaction records, highlighted in yellow and red. 6 months ago, Stephanie requested a transfer of management authority. She told Javier the fund needed to be moved to a higher yield account, said she had found a better investment firm. Javier signed the paperwork because Stephanie asked him to, because he trusts her. Patricia's voice hardened on those last 3 words. Once she had sole access, the withdrawals started. She slid a spreadsheet toward me. Look at this. I looked. The numbers marched down the page in a column of devastation. April, 50,000. May, 80,000. June, 120,000. July, 90,000. The pattern continued month after month. Relentless. Accelerating. 1.4 million, Patricia said quietly. Gone in 18 months. Only 400,000 remains. The coffee shop noise faded to static. The conversations, the espresso machine, the child laughing at a nearby table. All of it dissolved into a white hum behind Patricia's voice. "Where did it go?" I asked. Though some part of me already suspected the answer would be worse than theft. Patricia pulled out a second document. A printout from a forensic accounting firm she had hired 3 weeks ago. I traced the money through shell transfers and secondary accounts. It took my guy 2 weeks to untangle it. She met my eyes. It went to 3 online gambling platforms: DraftKings, BetMGM, and a private poker site registered in Costa Rica. Gambling. She lost $890,000 in 18 months, Frank. The withdrawals correspond exactly with deposit records on these platforms. She is not investing. She is not spending on Emma's education. She is gambling. Compulsively. The amounts are increasing every month. Last month alone, she lost $140,000 in a single weekend. I sat back. The chair pressed against my spine. I felt every vertebra, Patricia continued. There is more. She pulled out a property document. She took out a second mortgage on your house 3 months ago. Forged your signature. Got approved for $215,000. That money is already gone. Same platforms. She mortgaged my house. Your house, Frank. The house you and Maria built. She forged your name on the application. I have the document. The signature does not match yours. A handwriting expert could confirm it in 20 minutes. I stared at the property document. My name in someone else's handwriting. Close, but not mine. The F was too narrow. The K leaned wrong. A carpenter notices these things. We sign our work. We know our own hand. Patricia closed the folder and placed both hands flat on the table. Frank. Maria saved every penny for 18 years. She skipped vacations. She drove that old Camry until it had 200,000 miles. She packed lunch every day so she could put an extra $20 into that fund each week. She did it so Emma would never struggle. So Emma would have choices. I know. Stephanie burned through it in a year and a half. And she needed nobody asking questions about where Emma actually was, because if anyone checked, if anyone called that school, if anyone demanded to visit, the whole thing would unravel. The fund, the gambling, the forgery. All of it. I understood then. Not just what Stephanie had done, but why. Emma was not locked upstairs because Stephanie was cruel. Or not only because she was cruel. Emma was locked upstairs because Emma was the evidence. A living, breathing receipt that proved the money was never spent on education. A 10-year-old girl whose existence in Dallas had to be maintained as a fiction because the moment anyone confirmed she was not there, every dollar of debt, every forged signature, every lie would come crashing down. My granddaughter was not just a prisoner. She was a secret. The kind of secret that costs $1.4 million to keep. Patricia reached across the table and gripped my wrist. Her hand was small but strong. What are you going to do, Frank? I looked at her. At this woman who had loved Maria like a sister. Who had tracked numbers across bank statements, the way a detective tracks footprints. Who had spent her own money hiring forensic accountants because something felt wrong. I am going to get my granddaughter out of that room, I said. And I am going to make sure every dollar is accounted for. Patricia nodded. She did not ask what room. She did not ask what I meant. She already knew. The way Maria would have known. The way women know things that men spend years failing to see. She pushed the folder across the table. Take this. Everything is documented. Dates, amounts, platform records, the forged mortgage. Keep it somewhere safe. Not in the house. I took the folder. It weighed almost nothing. Paper and ink. But it held 18 years of Maria's sacrifice. 18 years of birthday candles and skipped vacations and packed lunches, all reduced to gambling losses on a screen. Maria saved for 18 years. Stephanie destroyed it in 18 months. And she needed my granddaughter locked in a room above my kitchen to make sure nobody ever discovered where the money went. I drove home with the folder locked in my truck's toolbox. The same toolbox where I kept my best chisels. Sharp things that required careful handling. Evidence is like that too. Sharp, dangerous if mishandled, capable of cutting deep if used at the right moment. The right moment was coming. But not yet. Not until I had everything. Not until the cut would be clean, and final, and impossible to repair. Sunday afternoon I was sanding a piece of mesquite in the garage. Not because I needed to build anything, because my hands needed work, while my mind turned over everything I had gathered in 4 days. The receipts, the phone calls, Patricia's folder locked in the toolbox. Evidence stacking like lumber before a build. The knock came at the garage side door. 3 solid raps. Not Stephanie's rhythm. She knocked quick and light. This was knuckles. Heavy, deliberate. Ray Donahue stood on the other side holding an iPad against his chest like a shield. His face was gray. Not sick gray. Troubled gray. Ray had lived next door for 10 years. 67. 6. End of chapter. Retired Austin Fire Department after 32 years. Solid man. Quiet man. Not the type to show up unannounced looking like he had swallowed something sharp. Frank. Can I come in? There is something you need to see. I led him to the workbench. He set the iPad down and opened it. His jaw was tight. My security camera covers my driveway, and part of yours, he said. Specifically the side where your exterior staircase goes up to the second floor. I have had it 2 years. Never thought much about what it picked up from your side. Until 6 months ago when I noticed a pattern, he tapped the screen. Night vision. Green-gray image. The frame showed the exterior staircase. 12 steps up to the second floor landing, and the door to the room above my kitchen. This is from last Tuesday. 2:14 in the morning. He pressed play. A figure appeared at the bottom of the stairs. Stephanie. Unmistakable. She carried a tray covered with cloth. Climbed quickly. A pause at the top. The sound of a code being entered. Door opened. She slipped inside. Door closed. Ray fast-forwarded 26 minutes. The door opened. Stephanie emerged. No tray. She descended and disappeared. Every night, Frank. Sometimes twice. For 6 months straight. Always between 11 and 3 in the morning. Always carrying something. Food. Bags. Laundry. He swiped through video after video. Different dates. Same pattern. She comes back down with trash bags sometimes. Small ones. Like bathroom waste. Then Ray paused. His finger hovered over one file. He looked at me with something close to pain. This one is from October 14th. 2:37 in the morning. October 14th. Emma's birthday. She would have turned 10. He pressed play. Stephanie appeared carrying something different. A small round cake. White frosting visible even in night vision. On top, the faint glow of candles. Small flames flickering against the dark. She climbed carefully, balancing, protecting the candles from the breeze. At the top, she paused, entered the code, opened the door. The candlelight flickered and disappeared inside. She baked a birthday cake. I said. My voice did not sound like mine. Ray nodded. At 2 in the morning. Carried it up those stairs with candles lit. The garage smelled like mesquite and machine oil. Normal smells, but nothing was normal. My daughter-in-law had carried a birthday cake to a room she told everyone was sealed with black mold. A room holding a child supposed to be in Dallas. 3 birthdays. I whispered. She turned 8, 9, and 10 up there. Ray set the iPad down. One more thing, Frank. September 3rd. 3:18 in the morning. He pressed play. The stairs were empty, but the second-floor window beside the landing was visible. For 12 seconds, nothing moved. Then, movement behind the glass. Quick. Small. A child's silhouette. Hands flat against the window. face pressed close, looking out, then gone, pulled back in barely 2 seconds, as if someone called them away, or as if the child knew they were not supposed to be seen. I gripped the workbench, knuckles white against wood. "I saw that live," Ray said. 3 in the morning on my phone. He exhaled hard. "I almost called you. Almost called police. But I talked myself out of it. Told myself it was a shadow. A curtain. I wanted it to be nothing because the alternative was something I did not know how to face." "Why now?" I asked. "Because Wednesday I saw Lucinda running to her car looking scared. Thursday your kitchen light stayed on until 3. I realized you were already looking." He met my eyes. "I should have come months ago. I failed you. I failed that little girl. You are here now," I said. "That matters." He pulled a USB drive from his shirt pocket and placed it on the workbench. 214 files. Time-stamped. Dated. Organized. I picked up the drive. Lighter than a nail, but holding 6 months of evidence. 6 months of Stephanie climbing those stairs in darkness. 3 birthday cakes. 1 small silhouette pressing hands against glass. 3 birthdays. 3 cakes nobody sang over. 3 sets of candles blown out in silence in a locked room. My granddaughter turned 8, 9, and 10 behind that door. Nobody clapped. Nobody took photos. Nobody watched her close her eyes and wish, but she must have wished. Children always wish. And standing in that garage with Ray's USB drive in my palm, I made a wish of my own. That every candle Emma blew out alone in that room carried the same prayer. That someone would come. That someone would find her. That someone would climb those stairs and open that door for a reason other than delivering food and collecting waste. I was going to be that someone. Soon, Monday night. The house was dark except for the glow of my laptop screen. Stephanie had gone to bed at 10:15. Her door clicked shut. The house settled. I waited 30 minutes. Then I opened the folder labeled Family Videos on the shared drive Stephanie maintained for our household. 3 years of Sunday video calls. Neatly organized by date. Stephanie always recorded them. "For memories," she said. "So Emma can look back and see how much we loved her even from far away." At the time it seemed thoughtful. Now it seemed like evidence she never expected anyone to examine. I opened the most recent call. 3 weeks ago. The screen filled with a girl's face. Brown hair. Brown eyes. A smile that looked like Emma's smile. Looked like it. "Hi, Grandpa." The voice was bright. Cheerful. "How are you doing? Did you finish that birdhouse you were making?" I had mentioned the birdhouse 2 calls earlier. She remembered. That seemed real. That seemed like Emma. But I was not watching the way a grandfather watches anymore. I was watching the way a carpenter inspects a joint, looking for gaps, misalignment, the places where things do not quite meet. I played the video again. This time I watched her eyes. They moved. They blinked. They tracked left and right, as if following thought. But there was something. A micro delay. The blink came a fraction of a second after she finished a sentence. Not before. Not during. After. Every time. Like a programmed response, rather than an involuntary reflex. I opened a call from 6 months ago. Same thing. Blink after sentence. Never during. I opened one from a year ago. Same pattern. I opened one from 2 years ago. Same. Then I opened a real video. One from before Emma supposedly left for Dallas. A birthday party. Emma turning 7. Blowing out candles while Maria held the camera. In that video, Emma blinked constantly. Mid-sentence. Mid-word. The way real children do because they cannot control it. Random. Natural. Human. The girl on the Sunday calls did not blink like a human child. She blinked like a program told to blink. I looked closer. The background in every Sunday call was identical. A beige wall, a bookshelf to the left, a window with white curtains to the right, consistent lighting, never a shadow out of place, never a change in the angle of sunlight, as if the background was an image. Static, placed behind a generated face, like a painted backdrop on a theater stage. I paused the most recent call and zoomed in on the bookshelf. The spines of the books were blurred, not out of focus the way objects get when a camera prioritizes a face. Blurred the way images get when they are artificially rendered at low resolution. No titles visible, no texture, just colored rectangles meant to suggest books without actually being books. My hands were steady, measuring, documenting. I opened my phone browser and typed "Deepfake Detection App Free." Several options appeared. I downloaded one called Sensity, uploaded a clip from the most recent Sunday call, 30 seconds of Emma talking about a math project. The analysis took 40 seconds. A progress bar moved across the screen. Then the result appeared in red text. High probability of synthetic media. Confidence level 93%. Facial mapping inconsistencies detected in orbital region and jaw articulation. I stared at the screen. 93%. Not definitive, but close enough that my hands finally trembled. I uploaded a second clip. Different call. 6 months earlier. The result came back in 11 seconds. High probability of synthetic media. Confidence, 91%. A third clip. 1 year ago. 94%. 3 years of Sunday calls. 3 years of smiling at a screen and saying, "I love you, sweetheart," and telling stories about birds learning to fly. 3 years of Javier calling from Houston every week and asking about homework and friends and cafeteria food. 3 years of a family believing they were talking to a living child, and none of it was real. The face was generated. The voice was synthesized. The background was fabricated. My granddaughter had never appeared on a single one of those calls. Instead, some software had worn her face like a mask and spoken in a voice built from recordings Stephanie must have made before the door locked shut. I closed the laptop. Sat in the dark. The kitchen clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. Above me, through the ceiling I had built with my own hands, a real girl slept. A girl whose face had been stolen and stretched across a digital puppet for 3 years. A girl whose father smiled at that puppet every Sunday and said "Good night, sweetheart," without knowing his daughter was close enough to hear his voice through the floor. I picked up my phone. It was 11:47. Late. But this could not wait. I called Javier. He answered on the third ring. Groggy. "Hey, Dad. Everything okay?" "Me, Joe." I kept my voice steady. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before answering." A pause. The sound of him sitting up in bed. "Okay. What is it? When was the last time you saw Emma in person?" "Not on a screen. In person. Touched her. Held her hand." Silence. 5 seconds. Then, "Dad, what is this about? Just answer me, Javier. Please." More silence. I could hear him thinking, calculating, searching his memory for something he had never thought to question. "I guess." He stopped. 3 years ago? When Stephanie drove her to Dallas. I was going to visit at Christmas, but Stephanie said the school discouraged midterm visits. Then COVID happened and everything was virtual. And then I kept planning to go, but shifts kept. His voice trailed off. "Dad, why are you asking me this?" I closed my eyes. "When was your next planned visit?" "This Christmas." Stephanie finally said the school changed their policy. I booked a flight to Dallas for December 22nd. December 22nd. 2 months from now. Just enough time for Stephanie to construct another layer of the lie. A fake visit to a fake school, with a fake version of his daughter waiting on the other end. "Mijo," I said carefully. "I need you to trust me. Something is not right. I cannot explain everything tonight, but I need you to know that I am handling it. Do not say anything to Stephanie. Do not change your routine. Can you do that, Dad? You are scaring me. I know. Trust me. The way you trusted your mother. Silence. Then quietly. Okay, Dad. I trust you. I ended the call. Sat in the dark kitchen. Above me the ceiling held its secrets. But not for much longer. I dialed one more number. Detective Marcus Webb. Patricia had given me his card 2 days ago. Homicide Division, 20 years. Now special victims. A man who understood what locked doors meant. He answered on the second ring despite the hour. Detective Webb. This is Frank Delgado. Patricia Nguyen gave me your name. I have evidence of a child being held against her will in my home. Financial fraud, forged documents, and video manipulation that will require your forensic team to verify. A pause. Then, tell me everything. Mr. Delgado, I did. Every piece. Every measurement. Every crack in the ceiling that had led me here. And when I finished, Webb said 2 words that carried more weight than a gavel. We are coming, Tuesday night. 11:47. The house was silent. The way a house is silent when it knows something is about to change. Stephanie's bedroom door had closed at 10:20. I gave her 90 minutes. Lay in the dark, counting each one. At 11:30 I rose. Did not turn on any lights. Did not put on shoes. Barefoot on hardwood. The way a carpenter moves through a structure he knows by heart. Every board memorized, every creak mapped. I moved through the kitchen. Past the counter where my coffee cup sat waiting for morning. Past the stove where Maria's cast iron skillet still hung from its hook. Through the back door. Into the night air. October in Austin. 62 degrees. The sky was clear. Stars visible above the pecan tree that shaded the backyard. The same tree Emma used to sit beneath, while I built her a swing set at age 5. The same tree whose leaves she pressed into construction paper with Maria's help. The same tree she could probably see through whatever small window or gap existed in that room above me. The exterior staircase rose along the side of the house. 12 steps. I built them in 1995. White oak. Treated for weather. I knew them the way a pianist knows keys. Left side creaks on step 3. Right side groans on 7. Both pop on 11. I took them on the right side. Slowly. Shifting my weight to the outer edge where the boards were strongest and quietest. Step 3. Silent. Step 7. A whisper of sound. Step 11. Nothing. I reached the landing. The door stood before me. Solid core. Not the original hollow core door I had installed for Maria's studio. This was new. Heavy. I could see it even in the dark, feel its weight in the air. A deadbolt lock mounted on the outside. And beside the handle, a small electronic keypad. A tiny red LED, glowing like an ember. I had brought nothing to open it. No tools. No codes. I had not come to break in. Not tonight. Webb had been clear. 7 a.m. tomorrow. Warrant signed. Officers present. Everything legal. Everything documented. Nothing that a defense attorney could challenge or dismiss. But I had not come to break in. I had come to listen. I placed my palm flat against the door. Cold. Metal beneath a thin layer of paint. Not wood. Steel. The kind of door you install when you want to keep something inside. Or someone. I pressed my ear against it. Held my breath. For 10 seconds I heard nothing. Then, there. A sound so small it might have been imagination. Breathing. Quick. Shallow. The way a child breathes when they are awake in the dark and trying to be silent. When they have learned that silence is safer than sound. My throat closed. My eyes burned. But I kept my voice steady. Low. Barely above a whisper. Emma? Mija? Abuelo's hair. The breathing stopped. Complete silence. 10 seconds that stretched into eternity. I pressed my hand harder against the steel, as if I could push through it, as if love could dissolve metal the way water dissolves salt. Then, 3 knocks. Small. Light. From the other side of the door. Not loud, not panicked. Deliberate. 1, 2, 3. The way a child knocks who has been taught that noise brings punishment. Careful. Controlled. But unmistakable. I knocked back. 3 times. Same rhythm. 1, 2, 3. I am here. I hear you. I know you are real. Silence again. But different now. Not the silence of fear. The silence of listening. Of waiting. Of a child trying to understand whether this was real or another dream she would wake from to find herself alone again. Emma. My voice cracked. I pressed my forehead against the door. Mija. I'm going to get you out. Tomorrow morning. People are coming to help. Police. Good people. They will open this door and you will never have to be in here again. Do you understand? Tomorrow. I waited. The pecan tree rustled in the breeze. A car passed somewhere on a distant street. The world moved on without knowing that a 65-year-old man was kneeling on a landing outside a steel door, talking to his granddaughter through 2 inches of metal. Then a voice. So small. So thin. Like thread stretched to its breaking point. Abuelo? I am here, Mia. Is the sickness gone? My chest seized. Whatever lie Stephanie had told this child to keep her quiet, to keep her behind this door for 3 years, it lived in those 4 words. Is the sickness gone? She still believed it. Still believed the world outside was dangerous. Still believed the door was protection rather than prison. There is no sickness, sweetheart. There never was. The world is safe. I am safe. And tomorrow, you are coming out. A long pause. I could hear her processing. 10 years old. 3 years locked away. Trying to reconcile what she had been told with what her grandfather was telling her now. Trying to decide who to believe. Okay, abuelo. 2 words. Barely audible. But enough. I will be right here in the morning. First thing. I promise you. On abuela's name. I promise. Another pause. Then. Okay, abuelo. I will wait. She had been waiting 3 years. 1,095 days. And she said it so simply. I will wait. As if waiting was all she knew. As if patience was the only skill she had been allowed to practice. I wanted to tear that door from its hinges. Every fiber of my body screamed to find something heavy and break through. I was a carpenter. I had torn down walls, ripped out door frames, demolished structures that no longer served their purpose. I could do it, right now, with my bare hands if necessary. But Maria's voice stopped me, clear as the night air. Patient, as always. Patience builds what haste destroys, mi amor. You know this. Do it right. Do it once. Make it count. She was right. If I broke in now, Stephanie could claim I was confused. Aggressive. Suffering from delusion. She could spin a story. She was good at stories. The best I had ever seen. But tomorrow at 7 a.m., with a warrant and officers and Detective Webb standing beside me, there would be no story she could tell. No explanation smooth enough. No smile wide enough to cover the truth. I lowered myself to the landing floor. Sat with my back against the steel door. The cold seeped through my shirt. I did not care. I was not leaving this spot until morning. I was not leaving my granddaughter alone for one more night. Through the door, I heard her settle. Small movements. A mattress shifting. The sound of a child curling up. And then her breathing slowed. Deepened. She was falling asleep. I stayed. Counting her breaths the way a carpenter counts nails. 100. 200. 300. Each one a confirmation that she was alive. Each one a promise that morning was coming, that the sun would rise, that the door would open, that I would keep my word. The stars turned slowly overhead. The pecan tree whispered, and Frank Delgado sat on a wooden landing he had built 29 years ago, his back against a steel door that should never have existed, and waited for dawn. 7:43. Wednesday morning. 1 week exactly since Lucinda's phone call shattered my ordinary Tuesday. Golden light angled through the pecan tree and fell across the driveway in stripes. I stood on the front porch with coffee I had not tasted. My back ached from a night on wooden boards. My eyes burned, but my hands were steady. 3 vehicles turned onto Magnolia Drive. 2 unmarked sedans. 1 patrol car. No sirens. No lights. They pulled to the curb with quiet precision. Detective Marcus Webb emerged from the lead car. Gray suit. Badge on belt. Beside him, Officer Linda Torres. Behind them, 2 more officers and a woman in a windbreaker with forensics printed across the back. Webb walked up the driveway. "Mr. Delgado, we have the warrant. Are you ready?" I set the coffee on the porch railing. "I have been ready since 2 o'clock this morning." "Where is she?" "Upstairs. Her bedroom is ground floor. Back hallway." Webb turned to Torres. "She goes nowhere near that staircase." Torres nodded and moved toward the back with 1 officer. Webb looked at me. "You do not have to be present for this. I am going up those stairs," I said. "I built them. My granddaughter is behind that door. I am not waiting anywhere." We entered through the front. Stephanie's voice came from the hallway. Confused. Rising. "What is happening? Dad? What is going on?" Torres stepped in front of her. "Ma'am, we have a warrant to search this property." I did not look at her. I walked past. Through the kitchen. Out the back door. To the staircase. We climbed. Left side creaks on 3. Right side groans on 7. Both pop on 11. For the last time, these stairs carried someone toward that door, with purpose other than delivering food to a prisoner. The landing. The steel door. The keypad with its red LED. In daylight, it looked worse. Industrial. The kind of door that belongs in a warehouse, not 12 steps above a kitchen where a grandmother once hummed rancheras. The forensics woman connected a device to the keypad. 30 seconds of cycling. A beep. The LED turned green. The deadbolt clicked. Webb stepped aside. He understood what this moment meant. I gripped the handle. Turned it. Pushed. The smell hit first. Disinfectant. Stale air. Lavender soap. The closed-in scent of a space, lived in but never opened. Never touched by wind or sunlight except whatever leaked through a gap I could not yet see. The room was small. 12 by 10. A narrow bed against the left wall. White sheets. A thin blanket. A small table with a lamp and 3 books. Against the right wall, a child's desk. Paper scattered. Crayons. Colored pencils. And on the walls. Every wall. Covering every inch. Drawings. Hundreds of them. Taped. Pinned. Layered. Trees. Birds. A kitchen with a man at the counter. A pecan tree with a swing. A brown teddy bear. And doors. Door after door after door. All open. All filled with golden light. In the far corner of the bed, pressed where 2 walls met, sat a child. Small. Thin. Brown hair tangled past her shoulders. Faded purple shirt. Gray sweatpants. Arms wrapped around a brown teddy bear clutched against her chest. Eyes wide with something older than fear. She looked at the doorway. At the light pouring in. At Webb. At the forensics woman. Then at me. I saw it. through the thinness and pallor and tangled hair. Maria's eyes looking back from a 10-year-old face. The girl who once sat on my counter, asking why wood had stripes. Abuelo? One word. A question and a prayer. As if she had dreamed this moment so many times she could not trust it was real. My knees hit the floor. I opened my arms. She uncurled slowly. Set the bear on the bed. Stood on trembling legs. One step. Another. Small. Uncertain. The way a bird tests a branch before trusting it with full weight. Then she was against my chest. Arms around my neck. Face buried in my shoulder. And she weighed nothing. I could feel every rib through her shirt. Every vertebra beneath my hands. Bones and skin and a heartbeat hammering fast enough to break through. You came. Shaking. Broken in places a 10-year-old voice should never break. You said tomorrow, and you came. I could not speak. Tears ran into her hair. I held her the way you hold something irreplaceable. Webb stepped out. Giving us this moment. Emma pulled back. Her hand touched my cheek. Touched the tears. You are crying, abuelo. Is it because you are happy or sad? Both, mija. Both. She pressed her forehead against mine. The way Maria used to. Bone. Against bone. I waited for you, she whispered. Every day I drew you, so I would not forget your face. And you came. I pulled her against my chest again. From somewhere deep in the house, Stephanie screamed, demanding a lawyer. But it was distant, irrelevant. My granddaughter was in my arms, thin as paper, light as air, but alive. Breathing against my neck, she weighed almost nothing, like holding a sparrow. But she was the heaviest thing I had ever carried. 3 years of absence. 3 years of lies. 3 years of birthday cakes in the dark and drawings of open doors. I lifted her, carried her, down 12 steps, into the sunlight, into the morning, into the rest of her life. 8:15. Emma sat in the back of an ambulance parked in my driveway. A paramedic wrapped a blood pressure cuff around her thin arm while she held my hand with her free one. She had not let go since I carried her down. Her grip was small but fierce, the grip of someone who had learned that if you release what you love, it might disappear. I need to call your daddy, I told her gently. He needs to know you are safe. She looked up at me. Her eyes were enormous in her thin face. Is Daddy going to come? Yes, mija. He is going to come right now. I stepped 3 feet from the ambulance, close enough that Emma could still see me. I pulled out my phone and dialed Javier. He answered on the first ring. He had been waiting. Since Monday night when I told him to trust me. He had been waiting, Dad. His voice was tight, controlled, the way doctors sound when they are holding themselves together for a patient. What is happening? Mijo. I kept my voice as steady as I could manage. Emma is here. She is alive. She is safe. She never went to Dallas. She has been in the house the whole time. In the room above the kitchen. Silence. 3 seconds. 5. 7. I counted them the way I had counted Emma's breaths through the door. What? His voice cracked on the single syllable. What do you mean she has been in the house? Stephanie kept her locked in the room upstairs. For 3 years. Police are here now. Emma is with paramedics. She is thin and scared, but she is alive. And she is asking for you. A sound came through the phone that I had never heard from my son. Not in 40 years. A sound between a gasp and a moan. The sound a man makes when the floor drops out from under everything he believed was solid. Then voices in the background. Someone asking if he was okay. The clatter of something falling. A phone being fumbled. Dad. His voice came back ragged. Broken. I am coming. I am coming right now. She is at the house, but they are taking her to Dell Children's Hospital. Meet us there. I am coming. I heard him moving. Running. A door slamming. I am getting on a plane. Dad. He choked. 3 years? She was there for 3 years? Yes. Mia. And I. He could not finish. I never. I talked to her every week. And she was. His breathing went ragged. Oh God. Oh God. Javier. Listen to me. She is alive. She is safe. That is what matters right now. Get on a plane. Come home. She needs her father. He made that sound again. Then, I am coming. Tell her, I am coming. Tell her, Daddy is coming. I will. The call ended. I stood in my driveway with the phone still against my ear. The morning sun warm on my face. Behind me, Emma sat in the ambulance watching, waiting, always waiting. I walked back to her. Daddy is on his way, mija. He is flying home right now. She nodded. Small. Quiet. Then, does he know I am here? He knows now. He did not know before. Nobody knew. Except Stephanie. She processed this. 10 years old. Trying to understand something no adult should have to understand. Then she said, I could hear him sometimes. On the phone. Talking to Mommy downstairs. I wanted to yell, but Mommy said if I made noise, the sickness would hear me. I squeezed her hand. There is no sickness, sweetheart. There never was. I know. She looked at me with those 2 old eyes. You told me last night. I believe you, abuelo. The ambulance took us to Dell Children's Hospital. 14 minutes across Austin, Emma held my hand the entire ride. The paramedics checked her vitals. Heart rate elevated, blood pressure low, weight significantly below normal for her age, mild dehydration, possible anemia, but alive, stable, present. They admitted her to a private room on the 3rd floor. Soft lighting, a window facing east with sunlight streaming through. Emma stared at that window the way someone stares at something they forgot existed. She reached toward it, touched the glass, felt the warmth. It is real, she whispered. Real, son. A nurse brought her juice and crackers. Emma ate slowly, carefully, as if she expected the food to disappear. I sat beside her bed and did not let go of her hand. 1 hour and 47 minutes after my phone call, the door to Emma's hospital room burst open. Javier stood in the doorway, still in his blue surgical scrubs. No coat, no bag, his hospital badge still clipped to his chest. He had driven to Hobby Airport and boarded the first Southwest flight to Austin without changing, without packing, without stopping. His eyes found Emma, and everything in him collapsed. She was sitting up in bed, the juice box in one hand, my hand in the other. She looked at the door, at the man standing there, shaking, at her father, who she had not seen in person in 3 years, who she had heard through floors and ceilings without being able to reach. Daddy? Javier crossed the room in 3 strides. His knees hit the floor beside her bed, the same way mine had hit the landing floor that morning. He pulled her into his arms and held her against his chest, and the sound that came out of him was not crying. It was something beyond crying. Something that had been building for 3 years without him knowing it. Grief for a loss he never knew he had suffered. Emma wrapped her arms around his neck. Small. Thin. Holding on. They stayed that way for a long time. Javier's shoulders heaving. Emma's face buried against his scrubs. The heart monitor beeping steady. The sunlight moving slowly across the floor. Then Emma pulled back. Looked at her father's face. Wet. Red. Devastated. And she asked the question that would live inside him for years. Daddy, why didn't you come get me? 4 words. Simple. Honest. The way only a child can be honest. No accusation. No anger. Just genuine confusion. Why didn't you come? Javier opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Nothing came out. Because what could he say? Because I believed your mother? Because I was too busy? Because I trusted a screen more than my own instincts? Because I planned to visit at Christmas and thought that was soon enough? He pulled her back against his chest, held her tighter, and said the only thing he could. I am here now, baby. I am here now. And I am never leaving again. Emma accepted this. The way children accept what they cannot change. She rested her head against his shoulder and closed her eyes. Safe for the first time in 3 years. Held by both her father and her grandfather at the same time. Present. Real. No screen between them. I watched my son hold his daughter, and I saw something break in him that would take years to rebuild. Not his love. That was intact. Stronger than ever. But his trust. His certainty. His belief that the world made sense, and that the people closest to you told the truth. That question would live inside him like a splinter buried deep beneath the skin. Not because he could not answer it, but because the answer was too simple and too terrible. He did not come because he believed. Because believing was easier than questioning. Because a screen showed him what he wanted to see, and he never thought to look behind it. Why didn't you come get me? The simplest question. The hardest answer. And one that neither of us would ever fully forgive ourselves for. 4 days after we opened the door, Thursday afternoon, I sat in a conference room at the Austin Police Department on East 8th Street. Detective Webb, across the table. A thick folder between us. Coffee neither of us had touched. Webb looked tired. The kind of tired that comes from spending 4 days tracing the architecture of someone else's cruelty. He opened the folder and spread documents across the table the way a carpenter spreads blueprints before demolition. Mr. Delgado, I want to walk you through what we have found. Some of this will confirm what you already know. Some of it will be new. None of it will be easy to hear. I nodded. Go ahead. He pulled out the first document. A printout from a Craigslist posting archived by a digital forensics team. The room was built by a contractor named Dennis Kowalski, out of San Antonio. Stephanie found him through Craigslist in February 2021, 1 month before Emma supposedly left for Dallas. She paid him $35,000 in cash. No contract, no permits, no paper trail, except this posting and 3 text messages we recovered from his phone. He slid a photograph across the table. A screenshot of a text conversation. Stephanie's message read, "Needs soundproofing. Child has severe anxiety and sensory issues. Needs complete quiet. Doctor recommended isolation room for therapeutic purposes. Must be finished by March 1st. Kowalski's reply, "Can do. Cash only. When is the homeowner gone? Stephanie. He visits his son in Houston the 2nd week of March. You will have 5 days. I stared at the text. 5 days. I had visited Javier in Houston that week. Came back to find Stephanie had rearranged some furniture upstairs. New paint smell, she said. Freshening things up. I had thanked her for being thoughtful. Webb continued. Kowalski installed the steel door, the electronic keypad, soundproofing foam on the walls and ceiling, and a basic plumbing connection for a small sink. He also sealed the original skylight with plywood and drywall from the inside, painted over it to match. He did the work in 4 days. The skylight. Maria's skylight. The one I cut into the roof for her studio. The woo! I'm son that. Sildi. B. Muns. Son. Mun. 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 The one I scrib when she was a baby. Sealed. Covered. Has Kowalski been charged? I asked. He is cooperating fully, Webb said. He claims he believed the therapeutic explanation. His text messages suggest he was uncomfortable but took the money. We are charging him as an accessory. Webb pulled out a second set of documents. Subscription records from an app called FaceSwap Pro. Stephanie created an account on March 4th, 2021. 3 days after Emma was locked in that room. The app allows users to generate realistic video of faces based on uploaded source material. He showed me the account details. Stephanie had uploaded 47 video clips of Emma, birthday parties, family dinners, playground footage, all recorded before March 2021. The app used these clips to generate new video that looked like Emma speaking, moving, smiling, growing. The technology is sophisticated, Webb said. It aged the face over time to simulate natural growth. It could respond to prompts, new hairstyles, different clothing. It even generated appropriate backgrounds based on reference images. In this case, stock photos of school environments. I thought of those Sunday calls. The smile that looked like Emma's, but blinked wrong. The background bookshelf with blurred spines. The way she never mentioned anything specific I could verify. All generated, all fake, all purchased for $19.99 per month. 3 years of deepfake video. Webb said quietly. Used to deceive you and your son into believing Emma was alive and thriving in Dallas. While she was locked in a room directly above your kitchen, he set that document aside and pulled out another. Financial records. This confirms what Patricia Nguyen reported. The education trust, established by your late wife, totaled $1.8 million. Since Stephanie gained access, $1.4 million has been withdrawn. Our forensic accountant traced the funds to 3 online gambling platforms. He listed them. DraftKings, BetMGM, a private poker site registered in Costa Rica under a shell company. Total gambling losses over 18 months. $892,000. Additional funds were used to pay Kowalski, maintain the deepfake subscription, purchase supplies for Emma, and service secondary debts accrued from the gambling. The mortgage forgery on your property added another $215,000. He paused. Let that settle. She also attempted to open a life insurance policy on Emma 6 months ago, Webb added. Named herself as beneficiary. The application was flagged and denied because she could not provide a current pediatrician's signature. My stomach turned. A life insurance policy. On a child she was starving in a locked room. Webb closed that section and opened the last folder. Dr. Nina Castillo, child psychologist assigned to Emma's case. She completed her preliminary assessment yesterday. He read from the report. Emma presents with significant social isolation, consistent with prolonged confinement. Language development is approximately 18 months behind age-appropriate norms for conversational speech. However, reading comprehension tests at 7th grade level, he looked up. She taught herself to read. Mr. Delgado. From books that were already in the room when it was sealed. Your wife's books. Art history. Watercolor techniques. A collection of poetry. A Spanish-English dictionary. Maria's books. Left on the shelves of her studio 30 years ago. Still there. When the walls closed in. Still there. When Emma needed them most. Emma demonstrates strong visual spatial intelligence. Webb continued reading. Her drawings show remarkable detail and emotional complexity for her age. Dr. Castillo describes her artistic ability as exceptional, likely developed as a primary coping mechanism during confinement. He closed the folder. Looked at me. She survived because she is intelligent and creative, and because someone taught her that art could sustain you through anything. Maria, I whispered. Webb nodded. Those books, those watercolors your wife left behind, they kept your granddaughter's mind alive for 3 years. I sat in silence, processing. The conference room felt too bright, too clean, too normal for the weight of what lived inside that folder. Webb leaned back. Mr. Delgado, in 20 years of investigations, I have seen terrible things. But this level of planning, this precision, he shook his head. She did not act in a moment of madness. She built this the way an architect builds a building, Layer by layer, system by system, every contingency planned, every witness neutralized, every exit sealed. Architecture, I said, remembering the word Patricia had used. Yes. Webb met my eyes. That is exactly what this was. Architecture. Built to imprison a child and hide a gambling addiction from everyone who could have stopped it. Designed to function indefinitely. If your cleaning woman had not heard that crying, if Emma had not made a sound that Wednesday morning, this could have continued for years, maybe forever. I gripped the edge of the table. But she did make a sound. And Lucinda heard it. And here we are. Here we are, Webb repeated. And we have enough evidence to put Stephanie away for a very long time. I stood. My legs were unsteady, but they held. At the door, I turned back. Detective. The drawings Emma made. The ones on the walls. Can I have them? Webb nodded. After processing. Yes. They are yours. Thank you. I walked out of the station into the Thursday afternoon sun. Warm on my face. Real. The way Emma had touched the hospital window and whispered, "Real son." I thought of Maria's books sustaining my granddaughter through the darkness. Poetry and watercolors and a Spanish-English dictionary. Seeds Maria planted 30 years ago, blooming in the worst soil imaginable. Architecture. That is what Stephanie had built. A perfect prison. But Maria had built something too. Without knowing it. Without planning it. She had left behind the tools of survival. And Emma had used them. Every single day. For 3 years. 2 architects. 2 structures. One built to imprison. One built to endure. Later that same afternoon, Webb brought me to a second room down the hallway. Smaller. A long table, covered with clear plastic evidence bags. Each bag held paper. Drawings. Hundreds of them organized in rows like tiles on a floor, waiting to be laid. Dr. Castillo is on her way, Webb said. She wanted to walk you through these personally. She said it was important you see them in context. I stood at the edge of the table and looked. Even through the plastic, the colors were vivid. Crayon, marker, colored pencil, some on white printer paper, some on the backs of envelopes, some on pages carefully torn from Maria's art books, with the printed side used for practice and the blank reverse used for creation. Dr. Nina Castillo arrived 5 minutes later. 38. Dark hair pulled back, kind eyes that held a professional steadiness. She carried a tablet and a thin folder of notes. Mr. Delgado. She shook my hand. Thank you for coming. I know this has been an overwhelming week. I nodded. Webb said you wanted me to see these. Yes. She moved to the head of the table. What you are looking at is approximately 340 drawings created by Emma over a period of roughly 3 years. They were removed from the walls and surfaces of the room during evidence processing. I have been cataloging them as part of my psychological assessment. She gestured to the first row. These are the earliest works. Created when Emma was approximately 7, shortly after confinement began. You can see the motor control is age-appropriate. Simple shapes, basic figures. The emotional content is primarily confusion and fear. I looked. Stick figures. A small shape behind a large rectangle that might have been a door. Dark colors. Heavy crayon pressure that tore through the paper in places. The marks of a frightened child pressing too hard, because pressing hard was the only control she had. Castillo moved to the second row. By the end of the first year, her work changes dramatically. The figures become more detailed. Proportions improve. She is developing artistic skill at an accelerated rate because drawing is her primary activity, her only form of expression. I saw it. The stick figures had become recognizable people. A tall man with broad shoulders, gray hair, something in his hand. A mug. Another figure, smaller, rounder, a bear shape beside her. A tree visible through what appeared to be a window. These subjects repeat throughout the entire collection, Castillo said. She tapped the tablet, pulling up categories. 63 drawings of a male figure in a kitchen setting, 41 of a tree viewed from above, 37 of a bare figure, often positioned as if speaking or reading, and 208 drawings that contain one specific element. She paused, looked at me. A door, she said. An open door. Present in over 60% of all drawings created during 3 years of captivity. I gripped the edge of the table. Castillo lifted one of the evidence bags from the middle section. This one. Created approximately 18 months into confinement, based on paper type and developmental markers. Through the plastic I could see it clearly. A rectangle in the center of the page. A door drawn in yellow crayon. Wide open. Light pouring through it in thick golden rays that filled half the page. And standing in the doorway, a figure. Tall, broad shoulders. One hand extended forward. The other, holding something round. A coffee cup. At the bottom, in careful letters that slanted slightly to the right the way a left-handed child writes, were 3 words. Abuelo is coming. I could not speak. I reached for the bag. Castillo nodded. I picked it up, held it in both hands, looked at those 3 words, written by a child who had been locked in a room for a year and a half. A child who could hear me making coffee every morning through the floor, who could probably smell it, who drew me standing in an open door because that was the only future she allowed herself to imagine. Mr. Delgado, Castillo said gently, in my professional opinion, these drawings served as Emma's primary psychological survival mechanism. Drawing you kept you present in her mind. Drawing the door kept hope alive. She did not simply document her captivity. She drew her way out of it. Repeatedly. Obsessively. Every day, she recreated the moment of rescue in her imagination, and I believe that act of creation is what preserved her mental health. She picked up another bag. This one showed the same door. Same golden light. But the figure in the doorway was kneeling, arms open, and running toward it. A smaller figure, with long hair streaming behind. This is from approximately 6 months ago, Castillo said. The most recent before rescue. Notice the increased detail. The confidence of the lines. By this point, Emma was not hoping for rescue. She was expecting it. She had drawn it so many times that in her mind, it was already real. It was only a matter of when. I set the first drawing down and picked up this one. The small figure running. Arms reaching forward. Hair flying. Running toward open arms and golden light. Running toward me. She drew this. I said. My voice was barely there. 6 months ago. Before she had any reason to believe I would come. Castillo nodded. Faith, Mr. Delgado. Not religious faith necessarily, but the faith of a child who loves her grandfather and believes that love is stronger than locked doors. She drew you into existence every single day. And ultimately, she was right. Webb stood by the door. Silent. Watching. I had forgotten he was there. I looked down the length of the table. 340 drawings. 3 years of a child's inner world, laid out in plastic bags like precious artifacts. And in over 200 of them, a door. Always open. Always filled with light. Always leading somewhere beyond the walls. Castillo spoke once more. There is one detail I want you to notice. In the drawings of you, the male figure, from the very first to the very last, you are always smiling. Always. Even in the darkest drawings. Even in the ones where the walls are drawn in black and the space feels small and tight, the figure of you is smiling. She met my eyes. She never lost her image of you as a safe person, as a happy person, as someone who would come for her. Not once in 3 years did she draw you as angry or absent or turned away. I set the drawing down, pressed both hands flat against the table, breathed. Every door was open. every single one. 3 years of locked doors and sealed windows, and a skylight covered in plywood. And my granddaughter drew them open. Again, and again, and again. As if by drawing them enough times, she could will them into existence. And maybe she did. Maybe those drawings reached through walls and floors and found me in my kitchen that Wednesday morning. Maybe they guided Lucinda's ears toward the ceiling. Maybe they nudged Ray to check his camera. Maybe art does not just record the world. Maybe sometimes it reshapes it. I do not know if that is true. But I know this. My granddaughter drew 340 prayers on paper, and every single one was answered. 2 weeks after the door opened, a Tuesday afternoon, I sat in a waiting room at Dell Children's Hospital with a paper cup of coffee that tasted like nothing and a magazine I had been staring at without reading for 20 minutes. Down the hallway, behind a closed door painted with cartoon butterflies, my granddaughter was speaking to Dr. Castillo for the 4th time. The first 3 sessions had been mostly silence. Castillo told me that was normal, that children who had experienced prolonged isolation needed time to rediscover their own voice, that speaking after years of enforced quiet felt dangerous to them, like stepping onto ice that might crack. But today was different. Castillo came out at 3:45. Her expression was careful, composed, but something lived behind her eyes. She sat beside me in the waiting room and spoke quietly. "Emma talked today," she said. "More than she has in any previous session. I would like to share what she said, with her permission, which she gave. She wants you to know. She said Abuelo should hear this." I set the coffee down. My hands were steady, but my chest was tight. Castillo opened her notebook. "I am going to paraphrase, Mr. Delgado. Not exact quotes in every case, but the substance and meaning are preserved," she began. "Emma told me that on the first day, March 5th, 2021, Stephanie brought her upstairs and told her they were playing a game. A hiding game. That Emma had to stay very quiet and very still because something dangerous was outside. Stephanie called it the sickness." I closed my eyes. Over the following days, Castillo continued. Stephanie elaborated on this story. She told Emma that a terrible disease had come, that people outside were dying, that the air itself was poisoned, that only inside this room was it safe to breathe. She told Emma that Daddy was sick in Houston and could not visit, that Abuelo was too old, and the sickness would kill him if Emma made any noise that let it in. My hands clenched, she said. Castillo paused, checking her notes. Mommy told me the sickness lived in sound, that if I yelled or screamed, it would hear me and come through the walls. So I had to be very, very quiet. Like a mouse. Mommy said mice survive because they never make noise. I thought of that first Wednesday. Lucinda hearing faint crying. So quiet you would miss it if the television was on. 3 years of trained silence. 3 years of a child believing her own voice was a weapon that could kill the people she loved. Emma told me she believed this completely for the first year, Castillo said. She was 7. The concept of a pandemic was not unfamiliar to her. She had experienced COVID lockdowns at age 4 and 5. Stephanie used that memory as foundation, told Emma this was worse, much worse. That this time people could not even go outside their rooms. She paused, took a breath. In the second year, Emma began to have doubts. She could hear normal sounds through the floor. Your coffee maker. The television. Conversations. If the sickness was in the air, why was Abuelo still walking around? Why was Stephanie going in and out freely? She asked Stephanie about this. Stephanie told her that adults had received a special medicine that protected them. But the medicine was dangerous for children. It would hurt Emma's brain. So Emma had to stay inside until scientists made a version safe for kids. I opened my eyes, stared at the wall across from me. Cartoon butterflies, smiling suns, a mural designed to make children feel safe, and my granddaughter had spent 3 years being told the sun itself was poison. Castillo continued. Emma said she could hear you every morning. She described it very specifically. She said, the sound of the cabinet opening, The sound of the coffee bag, the sound of water filling the pot, the sound of Abuelo's chair scraping the floor when he sits down. She said this was her favorite time of day because she knew you were there. Close. Alive. Real. She looked at me. Mr. Delgado, Emma told me she would press her ear against the floor every morning and listen to you make coffee. She said it was like a clock. It meant the day was starting. It meant the world was still turning. It meant Abuelo was okay. My throat closed. I pressed a hand over my mouth. Every morning for 3 years, I had stood in that kitchen, grinding beans, boiling water, sitting down with my newspaper, and directly above me, 10 feet away, a child had her ear pressed against the floorboards, listening to me live my life, drawing comfort from the sound of a coffee maker because it was the only proof she had that I existed. Castillo gave me a moment. Then she continued. I asked Emma about the bear, she said. The teddy bear she was holding when you found her, Emma calls it Abuela, she said. Castillo read from her notes. Abuela lives in the bear. She reads to me at night, when I cannot sleep. I hold her, and she talks to me. She tells me stories about birds, and trees, and the kitchen, and Abuelo. I could not hold it. Tears came. I did not try to stop them. Maria's bear. The one she gave Emma on her 4th birthday. The last gift my wife ever gave our granddaughter. And for 3 years, Emma had held it and heard Maria's voice inside it, had turned it into a vessel for everything she remembered about her grandmother. About safety. About love. About the world. Before the door closed. She kept Maria alive. I whispered, yes. Castillo said softly. In a very real psychological sense, that bear served as a transitional object, representing safety, love, and connection to family. It was her anchor. Without it, her isolation would have been complete. She closed the notebook, then reopened it to one final page. At the end of our session today, Emma asked me a question. She said, is the sickness gone now? Can I go outside forever? I told her the truth, Mr. Delgado. I told her there was never any sickness, that the world outside had always been safe, that she could have walked out of that room at any time if the door had not been locked. Castillo met my eyes. She was quiet for a very long time after I said that. Then she asked one question. Just 4 words. So Mommy lied? The waiting room was silent. The fluorescent lights hummed. Somewhere down the hall a child laughed. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. The sounds Emma had been denied for 3 years. What did you tell her? I asked. I told her yes. Castillo's voice was gentle but firm. I told her that her mother had lied, that there was no sickness, that the air was safe, that sound could not hurt anyone, that she was allowed to speak and yell and sing and laugh as loud as she wanted for the rest of her life. And how did she respond? Castillo looked at me. The professional composure slipped for just a moment. Something raw behind it. She opened her mouth, and she screamed. Not a scream of fear, a scream of release. Pure sound. As loud as she could, for about 10 seconds. Then she stopped and smiled. And she said, I wanted to do that for a long time. I sat back, closed my eyes, let the tears fall. My granddaughter had screamed. After 3 years of silence, after 3 years of believing her voice was a weapon, she had opened her mouth and screamed and smiled. She was 7 when that door locked. Too young to question, too trusting to doubt. Her mother told her the air was poison, and she believed it the way children believe in magic. Completely, because the person telling her was supposed to be the safest person in her world. The person whose voice meant bedtime and breakfast and everything will be okay. And that person had used that trust as a cage, had turned a child's faith into a prison sentence, had weaponized love itself. But Emma had screamed. 10 seconds of pure sound. 3 years of silence broken in one beautiful, defiant moment. And she had smiled afterward. That smile was worth everything. 4 months after the rescue, the Travis County Courthouse stood white and silent under an October sky. I wore the same navy suit Maria picked out for our 40th anniversary. Javier sat to my left in a charcoal blazer. His hands folded so tightly his knuckles had gone pale. Emma was not present. Dr. Castillo had testified in a pretrial hearing that exposing a 10-year-old to the woman who imprisoned her would cause irreparable psychological harm. The judge agreed. Emma stayed home with Patricia, drawing at the kitchen table, unaware that today the world would decide what her mother deserved. The courtroom held maybe 80 people. Reporters filled the first 3 rows on the left. Neighbors, friends, and strangers who had followed the story online filled the rest. I recognized Ray Donahue in the 4th row. Arms crossed, jaw set like a man watching a fire. He wished he could have stopped sooner. Lucinda sat near the back in a floral dress, clutching a tissue she had already torn in half. Stephanie entered from a side door in an orange jumpsuit, wrists cuffed in front. She had lost weight. Her hair, once styled in careful blonde waves, hung flat against her shoulders. She did not look at me. She did not look at Javier. She looked straight ahead at the judge's bench like a woman who had already decided this was happening to someone else. Prosecutor Angela Reyes opened with a single sentence. For 1,095 days, Stephanie Collins kept a 7-year-old child locked in a 12 by 10-foot room and told her the air outside would kill her. The courtroom went silent. I heard someone behind me inhale sharply. Then nothing. Reyes built her case the way I would build a cabinet. One piece at a time. Fitted together with precision. No gaps. No guesswork. She introduced the contractor's testimony first. Dennis Kowalski confirmed he was paid $35,000 in cash over 5 days to install soundproofing. A reinforced steel door, a digital keypad, and a ventilation system designed to keep a human being alive in a sealed space. He said Stephanie told him it was a safe room for tornado season. He said he believed her until he saw the news 4 months later and vomited in his truck. Next came the digital evidence. A forensics analyst named Dr. Howard Chen displayed 47 video clips generated by FaceSwap Pro, each one a fabricated image of Emma attending school, playing soccer, eating birthday cake in a restaurant that did not exist. Chen explained that Stephanie had used 93 photographs of Emma taken before the imprisonment as source material and fed them into the software monthly to simulate aging. The videos were sent to Javier and to me on a schedule. Every Sunday at 6:15 in the evening. 3 years of Sundays. 156 lies delivered on time like a subscription. Patricia Nguyen testified about the money. She displayed bank records showing $1.4 million withdrawn from Maria's education trust over 18 months. $892,000 lost to online gambling platforms. $215,000 taken through a forged second mortgage on my home. Patricia's voice did not waver. She had spent 40 years as a financial attorney. She presented numbers the way a surgeon presents an X-ray. Cold, clear, undeniable. Detective Marcus Webb took the stand for 90 minutes. He walked the jury through the timeline from Lucinda's call to the moment forensics cracked the keypad code. He played 3 audio recordings. The first was Stephanie telling a locksmith the room contained sensitive documents. The second was a voicemail Stephanie left for Javier 3 weeks before the rescue, cheerfully describing Emma's supposed school recital. The third was the recording from my phone the night I stood outside the steel door. 3 knocks. Then Emma's voice asking, "Is the sickness gone?" Several jurors looked down at their hands. One woman in seat number 4 pressed a palm over her mouth. The defense attorney, a tall man named Richard Pratt, argued diminished capacity. He claimed Stephanie suffered from a gambling addiction that spiraled into paranoia, that she feared losing access to Emma and made increasingly irrational decisions to maintain control. He called a psychiatrist who used words like compulsive disorder and dissociative episodes. The psychiatrist never once mentioned Emma by name. He spoke only of the defendant's mental state, as though the child locked upstairs for 3 years was a footnote in someone else's story. Reyes delivered her closing argument in 11 minutes. She stood 6 feet from the jury and spoke without notes. She said, Emma drew 340 pictures in that room. 63 of them show her grandfather drinking coffee in the kitchen below her. She could hear him every single morning. She believed he would come for her. She was right, but she should never have had to wait. She should never have had to draw a door because no one opened the real one for 1,095 days. Stephanie Collins did not lose control. She built a cage. She designed a lie. She maintained it with software, cash payments, and forged documents. That is not illness. That is architecture. The jury deliberated for 3 hours and 40 minutes. They returned a guilty verdict on all 7 counts. Unlawful imprisonment of a minor, fraud, forgery, embezzlement, child endangerment, identity theft, exploitation of a vulnerable person. Judge Harold Menton sentenced Stephanie to 22 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, with no possibility of parole for 15 years. He said one thing I will never forget. He looked at Stephanie and said, "You told a child the world was poison. You made yourself the only safe thing she knew. That is not love. That is ownership. And this court does not recognize your claim." Stephanie showed no visible reaction. She was led out through the same side door. Javier exhaled beside me like a man who had been holding his breath for 4 months. I put my hand on his shoulder. He put his hand on mine. Neither of us spoke. Outside the courthouse, the October air smelled like cedar and dust. Ray shook my hand without a word. Lucinda hugged me and whispered, "Maria is proud." I nodded because I could not speak. That night I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold 2 hours earlier. Above me, the ceiling was silent. No heartbeat. No crying. No tiny footsteps at 2 in the morning. Emma was asleep in Javier's apartment across town, in a room with 2 windows that opened whenever she wanted. The silence above my kitchen was finally, mercifully, empty. I picked up my phone. 1 missed call from Patricia. 1 text from Ray. 14 messages from numbers I did not recognize. I turned the phone face down and listened to the nothing above me. After 3 years of holding my breath every time I looked at that ceiling, the nothing sounded like music. 2 years passed the way water smooths a stone. Not all at once. Not in any single dramatic moment, but slowly, quietly, with a patience I had to learn from my own granddaughter. Emma turned 12 in October. Javier bought a house 4 blocks from mine on Riverside Drive, a single-story craftsman with a wide porch and a pecan tree in the backyard that reminded me so much of ours. I nearly cried the first time I saw it. He chose it on purpose. He told me later that Emma asked for 2 things when they went house hunting: a tree like Abuelo's and windows that open. Every room in that house has windows that open. Javier made sure of it. The kitchen has 3. The living room has 4. The bathroom has a small frosted one that catches morning light and throws it across the tile like a scattered deck of cards. But Emma's bedroom has 5 windows in a single room, each one facing a different angle, as though the architect understood that a child who lived in darkness for 3 years would need every possible direction of sky. Emma calls it the Sunshine Room. She named it herself on moving day. Javier had let her choose the paint color. She picked a shade called Morning Gold, a warm yellow that glows when the light hits it in the afternoon. She painted one wall herself with a roller that was too big for her hands. The streaks are still visible if you look closely. Javier never repainted them. He told me those streaks are proof that Emma chose something and made it real with her own hands. I understood exactly what he meant. The room holds a twin bed, with a white comforter covered in small embroidered sunflowers. A bookshelf Javier and I built together one Saturday afternoon using red oak. The same wood Maria and I used for the shelves in our old living room. A desk by the largest window, where Emma does her homework and draws. She still draws every day. Dr. Castillo says the drawing is no longer a survival mechanism. It has become a language. Emma speaks fluently in color and line the way some children speak in music. On the wall above her desk hang 3 framed pictures. The first is a photograph of Maria holding infant Emma in the hospital, both of them glowing under fluorescent light. The second is one of Emma's own drawings from the room, the one where the grandfather stands in the open doorway with a coffee cup. She asked to keep it. Castillo agreed it was healthy. The third is a new drawing Emma made 6 months after the rescue. It shows the same doorway, but this time Emma is on the outside looking in, and the room behind her is empty. The door is open, but she is walking away from it. Castillo called it the most significant piece of art she had seen in 20 years of practice. Emma attends Crestview Elementary now. A real school with real children and real teachers who know her name. She started in 4th grade, 2 years behind her age group. But within 8 months, she tested into 5th grade and then into 6th. Her reading level is 9th grade. Her math is 7th. Dr. Castillo attributes this to the 3 years Emma spent teaching herself from Maria's books, the same volumes I had placed on the nursery shelf when she was a baby. Maria's copies of Charlotte's Web, The Secret Garden, A Wrinkle in Time, and an old encyclopedia set from 1989. Emma read them all. Some of them twice. The encyclopedia she read cover to cover, Volume A through Volume W. She told me Volume X was missing. I checked. She was right. It had been missing since 1994. My granddaughter noticed from memory. She has friends now. 2 girls named Sophia and Jade who live on the same block and ride bikes with her after school. They do not know the full story. They know Emma lived somewhere else for a while and came back. That is enough for 12-year-olds. They care more about whether Emma can do a wheelie on her bike than where she was 3 years ago. She cannot do a wheelie yet. She is working on it. I have watched her try 14 times from my porch. Each attempt gets a little closer. Javier works from home now. He left the Houston hospital and took a position at Dell Medical School, teaching rather than practicing, so he could be present every morning and every evening. He makes Emma breakfast at 7:15. Pancakes on Mondays, eggs and toast on Tuesdays through Thursdays. Cereal on Fridays because Emma says Fridays should be easy. Saturdays, they cook together. Sundays they come to my house for coffee and whatever I have baked the night before. Usually pecan pie, sometimes banana bread. Always too much. Every Sunday morning Emma walks through my front door without knocking. She goes straight to the kitchen. She pours herself a glass of orange juice, sits at the table, and looks up at the ceiling. She does this every single time. It lasts maybe 3 seconds. Then she looks at me and smiles and says, "Good morning, abuelo." And we begin our day. I asked her once why she looks up. She said, "I am making sure it is quiet." I said, "It will always be quiet now." She said, "I know, but I like to check." Castillo told me this small ritual may continue for years, perhaps for life. She said it is not fear. It is Emma confirming her own freedom. The way a bird released from a cage still glances at the open door, not because it is afraid of going back, but because it remembers what it means to be out. I understand that. I still put my hand on the kitchen ceiling some mornings when no one is watching. I press my palm flat against the plaster, and I listen. I hear nothing. And the nothing still sounds like music. The spring meet at Crestview Elementary fell on the 2nd Saturday of April. The kind of Texas morning where the sky stretches so wide and blue it looks like someone painted it fresh overnight. 80 degrees by 9. Not a single cloud. The smell of cut grass and sunscreen drifting across the field like a lazy tide. I arrived at 7:45 with a folding chair, a thermos of black coffee, and a hat Maria bought me in 2008 at a gas station outside Fredericksburg. The hat said Texas Forever in faded red letters. I wore it to every one of Javier's baseball games when he was a boy. Now I wore it for Emma. Javier saved me a spot along the fence near the 400-meter start line. He had already set up 2 chairs and a small cooler filled with water bottles and orange slices. Patricia sat beside him in a wide-brimmed sun hat, fanning herself with the event program. Ray stood behind them, arms crossed, scanning the field like he was watching for structural hazards. Old habits. Emma was somewhere behind the school building, warming up with her team. She had joined the track club in January. Coach Hernandez told Javier that Emma had a natural stride, long and fluid, unusual for a girl her size. She was small for 12, still catching up to the weight and height she lost in those 3 years, but her legs moved like they had somewhere important to be. I had watched her practice in the backyard for 3 months. Every evening after homework, she ran laps around the pecan tree. 15 laps equaled roughly 400 meters. She counted them out loud every time. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 15. Then she would stop, check the stopwatch Javier gave her for Christmas, and write the number down in a small green notebook. The same kind of notebook I used for carpentry measurements. She told me she liked seeing the numbers get smaller. I told her that was the whole point of building anything. You measure, you cut, you measure again, and each time you get closer to where you want to be. The announcer called the girls' 400-meter final at 10:22. 8 lanes, 8 runners. Emma drew lane 6. I watched her walk to the starting blocks in her white jersey, with the green Crestview crest, number 44 pinned to her chest, her hair pulled back in a single ponytail. She looked small between the 2 taller girls in lanes 5 and 7. She looked ready. I set my coffee down. Javier leaned forward in his chair. Patricia put a hand over her heart. Ray unfolded his arms and gripped the fence. The starter raised the pistol. Emma crouched. The gun cracked and 8 girls launched forward. The first 100 meters were chaos. Elbows and ponytails and sneakers slapping synthetic track. Emma sat in 5th place, her stride short and tight like she was holding something back. Coach Hernandez had told her to stay controlled through the first curve. Save it for the back straight. Do not chase. Let them come to you. At 150 meters, Emma moved to 4th. Her stride opened. I could see it from the fence. The difference between a girl running and a girl deciding to run. Her arms dropped lower. Her chin lifted. Her feet struck the track with a rhythm that reminded me of a metronome I kept in my workshop for decades. Steady. Certain. Unrushed. At 200 meters, she passed the girl in 3rd. A blonde in a blue jersey who had led her age group all season. The girl glanced sideways as Emma moved past. Emma did not look back. She never looks back. The back straight opened in front of her like a hallway. 200 meters to 280. Emma shifted into 2nd. Only 1 girl remained ahead. A tall runner from Westwood Elementary in lane 3, with legs that seemed to reach the finish line a full stride before her body. The gap was maybe 4 meters. At 300 meters, I stood up. So did Javier. So did Patricia. Ray was already standing. The entire section of fence erupted. Parents shouting names. Children banging the chain link. Coach Hernandez clapping both hands above her head. Emma entered the final curve in 2nd place, 3 meters behind the Westwood girl. Her face had changed. Not pain. Not strain. Something else. The look of a person who has waited a very long time for a door to open and now sees it right in front of her. She closed the gap at 320 meters. Pulled even at 350. The Westwood girl surged. Emma surged back. They ran shoulder to shoulder for 10 meters that lasted longer than any 10 meters should last. At 370 meters, Emma leaned forward. Not with her chest, with her whole body. Like she was falling into the finish line and trusted the ground to catch her. Her legs turned over 1 more time, 2 more times. 3. She crossed the line at 1 minute and 12 seconds. 1st place. By a half stride. The crowd erupted. I did not move. My hands gripped the chain-link fence and my eyes blurred, and I stood perfectly still while Javier shouted and Patricia spilled her water and Ray slapped the fence post hard enough to rattle the whole section. Emma slowed to a jog, then a walk. Then she turned and looked directly at me through the fence. 40 meters of track and grass and people between us. She smiled. Not a big smile. A quiet one. The kind that says, "I know you are watching and I wanted you to see this." She held up one finger. First place. I held up one finger back. She jogged to her team and disappeared into a circle of screaming 12-year-olds. I sat down in my folding chair and let the tears fall into my cold coffee. Javier put his hand on my shoulder and said nothing. Maria would have loved this. She would have been standing on the chair. She would have been louder than every parent combined. She would have said, "That is our girl. That is our brave, beautiful girl." I whispered it for her. Under my breath, under the Texas sun, under a faded red hat from a gas station outside Fredericksburg. That is our girl. That night I sat alone in my kitchen at 11:14. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet I used to fear. The kind that once made me press my palm against the ceiling and hold my breath. But tonight the quiet was different. Tonight it was earned. Emma's first place ribbon sat on the counter beside my coffee mug. Green satin with gold lettering. Crestview Elementary Spring Meet. 400 meters. First place. She handed it to me after the race and said, "Keep it at your house, abuelo, so I know where it is." I set it against the sugar bowl, where Maria used to prop her recipe cards. It looked right there, like it had always belonged. The coffee was decaf. Doctor's orders. Javier had been on me about caffeine for a year. I switched in February and pretended to hate it for 2 weeks before admitting it tasted the same. Javier smiled like he had won something. Maybe he had. I looked at the kitchen ceiling. Flat. White. Silent. 1,000 mornings I had sat beneath it, drinking coffee, while my granddaughter breathed 12 feet above me. 1,000 mornings I heard nothing because I was not listening. Or maybe I was listening but I did not know what to listen for. That is the part that still visits me at night. Not the anger. Not the courtroom. Not Stephanie's blank face or the sound of cuffs clicking shut. What visits me is the simplicity of it. How easy it was to miss. How close the truth lived to me every single day, and how I walked beneath it, poured my coffee beneath it, read my newspaper beneath it, and never once thought to look up. I am 67 years old. I have built homes for 4 decades. I know what lives inside walls. Wiring, plumbing, insulation, dead air. I have torn open ceilings and found rat nests, water damage, termite trails that ran for 30 feet without a single visible sign on the surface. I know that what you cannot see is often more important than what you can. And still I missed it. 3 years. 1,095 days. My own house. My own ceiling. My own granddaughter. I do not tell you this story for sympathy. I do not tell it for anger or for justice or for revenge. Stephanie is in a cell in Gatesville. 22 years. That chapter closed the day Judge Menton spoke his last sentence, and the bailiff led her through that side door. I felt no satisfaction. I felt only the quiet click of something ending. I tell you this story because of what I learned sitting in this kitchen after everything was over. The first lesson is this. Trust your discomfort. The morning Lucinda called me, something in my chest recognized the truth before my brain did. A tightness, a heat, a feeling like standing on a floor that has just begun to sag beneath your weight. I ignored that feeling for exactly 4 hours before I acted on it. 4 hours too long. If something feels wrong in your home, in your family, in the space where your children sleep, do not wait for proof. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for someone else to say it first. Move. The second lesson is this. Measure twice. I spent my whole life with a tape measure and a pencil behind my ear. I built everything to spec. plumb, level, square. But I never measured the people around me with the same precision. I took Stephanie's words at face value the way you take a blueprint from a licensed architect. You assume it is accurate because someone with authority drew the lines. But people are not blueprints. People lie in dimensions you cannot see. Measure the people in your life. Measure their words against their actions. Measure what they show you against what they hide. And when the numbers do not add up, believe the numbers. The third lesson is this. Children speak in ways that are easy to miss. Emma drew 340 pictures. She pressed her ear to the floor every morning. She knocked 3 times on a steel door at midnight. She told me everything she needed me to know in a language I had not learned to hear. If there is a child in your life who draws the same picture over and over, who repeats the same question, who looks at a ceiling or a window or a door with an expression you cannot name, pay attention. That is not imagination. That is testimony. The fourth lesson is the one I carry closest. Time is not a passive thing. It does not simply pass. It accumulates. It builds pressure. It compounds silence into suffering. Every day I did not act was a day Emma spent alone. Every week I accepted a video call instead of driving to Dallas. Was a week she drew another door she could not open. I cannot get those days back, but I can tell you, they mattered. Every single one. If you are waiting to act on something important, stop waiting. Today is already late. I finished my coffee and rinsed the mug in the sink. I dried it with the blue towel. Maria hung on the oven handle in 2003. The towel is threadbare now. Faded, soft as tissue paper. I keep it because it still smells like her if I press it against my face and breathe deep enough. I turned off the kitchen light and stood in the dark for a moment. The ceiling above me was just a ceiling. Wood and plaster and paint. Nothing more. Nothing less. Tomorrow morning I will wake up at 6. I will make coffee. I will sit at this table. And at 7:30, Emma will walk through my front door without knocking. She will pour herself orange juice. She will glance at the ceiling for 3 seconds. Then she will look at me and say, "Good morning, abuelo." And the morning will be good. If this story reached you, if something in it made you think of a door you have been afraid to open, I am asking you now. Open it. Measure the wall. Listen to the silence. Believe the child who keeps drawing the same picture. Do not wait for a cleaner to call you on a Wednesday morning. Be the one who listens first. Thank you for staying with me through this. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who might be sitting beneath their own ceiling right now, drinking coffee, trusting a silence they should not trust. And if you have not already, subscribe to this channel. Not for me. For the next story that might change the way you listen. God bless you. God bless your family. And God bless every child who is still waiting for someone to open the door. Good night.